Hi everyone, Sarah here. Jamie and I are looking forward to bringing you more interviews, tips, and lessons learned in 2023. We'd like to hear your thoughts about the podcast, so we set up a survey. Go to wishidknownforwriters.com/survey. It's short and it shouldn't take more than a minute or two max. Your answers will help shape the podcast. Tell us what you think at wishidknownforwriters.com/survey.
Welcome to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast, where we focus on how authors found success, looking at strategies that have taken them to the top of the bestseller charts, as well as what they've learned from their mistakes. Because being an indie author is more than knowing the latest marketing trend. It's about being innovative and creative and learning from your mistakes.
Welcome to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast. I'm Sarah Rosette.
And I'm Jamie Albright. And this week on the show we have
Traci Andrighetti.
Yes, we do. And we love Traci. She's a friend to both of us. And we just love her so much. And she's super fun. And this was a great interview. Traci's kind of reinvigorated her career by going wide. And she's doing a collaboration with 3 other authors. And it's super interesting. And I love the way they've done it.
Right. It's very different. It's nothing we've heard before.
Yeah.
And they're writing a series together. And it talks about, how they came up with the idea and how they executed it. And it's just really good. It was like, we talked about, she works full time, how she had left her job to write full time and decided to go back to her job. And so it's in write part-time. And so it's just a really good interview of things that we don't talk about a whole lot. Some new things that we haven't talked about at all, like the collaboration on a series, like writing the actual books together for a whole series, which is like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I could do that, but Traci loves it and she highly recommends it. So
she does. Really it's a really fun interview too, because we laugh a lot.
Yeah.
We talk about our misadventures in New Orleans.
Yes. And New Orleans is always an interesting town. So I just can't imagine what it was like when you two were there. What's new this week?
Not a whole lot. Just not a whole lot.
Okay. And that's a totally fine answer.
Thanks. That's about all I'm going to say. What's going on with you?
Well, I'm working really hard on getting a book finished. I have a deadline in March.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a copy editing deadline. And I'm actually debating if I want to just email my editor and say, I want to push that out because I don't want to be stressed. And I'm really like, that's all I'm thinking about. And and so it's kind of like a point of pride with me. Like I've never had to move a deadline. And so, do I want to buckle down and do it for the next couple of weeks, like 6 weeks, or do I want to push it out? And so I'm kind of thinking about pushing it out, and that would give me extra time. I could still like comfortably 1,000 weekdays, and then work on some of these other things that I want to do, like setting up direct sales, and and that's like a big. There's a lot that goes into that you don't see until you get done. And so it's like, there's no benefit until like a couple of months later. So, so that's my debate this week. That's what I'm working on.
Yep.
And, so that's what's going on. And then, what else do we have? Oh, we were going to talk about, subscriptions for the podcast.
Yeah.
So we now have subscriptions where if you would like to support the podcast, you can.
Right.
And we've not really done ads or anything to cover the podcast cost. And we're, we hope that we will have some supporters to help us cover the cost of the editing, the hosting, and all that. We love podcasts, and we want to do this because we enjoy getting together and talking about books and writing. But there's a point where, like, if we want to keep doing it, it makes sense to, if it keeps us away from writing, it's almost like we need to do something to make it pay for itself a little bit. I don't know, how would you phrase it?
Yeah, that's exactly how I would phrase it. So we're not having to pay for it. and we're not writing, it does keep us away from writing. So it does help us to be able to cover the costs, because it's not just the editing. I mean, we pay Adriel. Adriel does a lot for us. She's our PA, and the hosting cost and all of that. So yeah, if you want to support us, that would be awesome. If you can't, we understand that too. And
yes, we do.
We'll still be here as long as we can do it. And
and
but
we're thinking this is a way for us to connect a little bit more deeply with some of our listeners. And so we have a link. It's wishidknownforwriters.com/support. And so you can go there and sign up to support the podcast, and we will give you a shout out on the air. And we don't have any supporters yet, so you could be the first one to get shouted out.
And we'll probably butcher it like we do a lot of our guests.
Oh my goodness, yes. And I have such a hard time with that.
Hopefully not. But yeah, that's really kind of it. And
so
I think that was all we were going to talk about. Unless, can I plug my consulting service, if you don't mind? So I did 4 free consultations last week, and it just reminded me how much I love it. And so if you mention the podcast, I'll give you a $25 break on the consultation. And I'm pretty good at it. I mean, I just have to say, I'm pretty good at it.
She is.
Now, don't ask me any grammar questions. You do not want my advice on that, or any productivity questions. You don't want my advice on that. But other things I'm pretty good at. So, anyway, I know a thing or two about a thing or two.
Yeah, you're really good at like looking at a sales page and looking at covers and blurbs, and you're like, when we talk about like being an instinctive writer, you kind of just instinctively know, well, if you do this or if you lean into this, it will help. And you've helped people, and they've seen really good results.
They have, and just branding too. Kind of help if you're not real sure about your branding. I can really help with that. We can really boil it down to what it is you offer people. What's the promise you're going to make to people, and then fulfill. So anyway, you can contact me through my website, or just send me
if they're in the email. Facebook group, they can message you, right?
You can message me through the Facebook group. My email is jamiealbright1@gmail.com, because when I was doing my email, I didn't know it was going to be a big thing. So
well, that one works just fine.
Jamie Albright 1, number 1. So if you're interested, but be sure to mention that you heard about it on the podcast, because I want to be sure and give you the discount.
Yeah. All right. Well, we should get to Traci's interview.
Okay.
All right. Here's Traci. Well, today we are excited to talk to Traci Andrighetti. Hi, Traci. How are you?
Hey, I'm so happy to be here, you guys. Thanks for having me.
Well, we were excited to have you come on the podcast, and I know this is going to be a lively discussion.
If it's too lively, edit that out.
All right, so let's read your bio, and then we'll get into the questions. Traci Andrighetti is the USA Today bestselling author of the Frankie Amato Mysteries and the Danger Cove Hair Salon Mysteries. She is the co-author of the Killer Foursome Mysteries as well. In her previous life, she was an award-winning literary translator and a lecturer of Italian at the University of Texas at Austin, where she earned a PhD in applied linguistics. But then she got wise and ditched that academic stuff for a life in crime writing, that is.
I think it sounds like I need to rewrite that. I haven't looked. I
loved it.
While I haven't looked, but it still sums it up. You know what I mean?
Like, I think it's great because it shows.
It was a really conscious decision to get out of academia and have some fun.
That's good.
Well, we will dive into all that, I think.
Yeah. Well, tell us how you got into writing.
Total accident. Had to do with academia. I finished the PhD and thought, oh my God, I'm never going to read a book again. And I had heard that people who do that often don't read for 2 years. I did not read for a year and a half. I didn't want to read anything fun. I didn't want to read a freaking cereal box. If it involved reading, I was like, nope, no. And so I would look at my husband and go, you read it. And then the funny thing happened. A year and a half in, I was missing a big project, i.e. a dissertation. And I went to lunch with the next student and I was like, maybe I need to research or something. And she goes, you don't want to do that crap anymore. And I looked at her and I go, you're right, I don't. I want to have fun. And so I signed up for an online writing class. And this is really funny. It was a long time ago. I'm trying to remember probably 2013, which seems like a long time ago. And the teacher was Kristen Harmel, who's now like a New York Times bestselling author a few times over. So I got lucky there, you guys. And it's when they call it chick lit. I took an intro chick lit class with her. And I signed up and said, can I make it a mystery? And she said, yes. And then I took some advice of hers at the end of the class. She said, whatever you do when you leave here, you need to join some sort of writing group. And I joined an online one, and the women running the group suggested I enter this contest. I entered a contest, and the next thing you know, I had like Gemma Halliday was trying to do a publishing company. Well, I guess she still does it. And so she wanted to publish it and said, any chance it could be a series? And I said, well, yes. So, yeah,
not a problem, right?
I really, the contest I entered was for a month of mentoring from a New York Times bestselling author. It was not to get published. So that was a weird thing where I had to suddenly decide. So that's how that happened. And I've looked back many times.
But you are no longer with Gemma?
No. It was after book 3, somebody said, you should self-publish. And I'm so glad I did, because, you know, the income, I think, quintupled, something like that. It was considerable. And I did well with her. She actually has a lot of followers, you guys, and they buy her books.
Yeah, she's cultivated a good following, and her people are interested in the books she puts out.
And they're still my readers, a lot of them. So
yeah, well, that is interesting, because it's not like the typical path that we often hear of, you know, people wanting to write since they were little. So I like that it's a little different. So what is
want to write?
It's very on brand for you to just stumble upon it too.
I know. I feel like it is. I never thought about being a writer. I had all these oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I had all these friends when we were like growing up and in college. You would go, yeah, I'm going to be a writer, and I would like mock them. Because a lot of them, you know, had that air of like, you know, I'm going to be this Hemingway or whatever. And I would laugh so hard. I know, very supportive.
Yes, they had their cable cardigan on and their pipe at 21.
Pipe, right? Yes. lived all the life at 21, you know, had so many stories. It was that I would mock them because, you know, I'm that person. And so it just was so ironic, such an ironic twist of fate that I was writing something, not having it, obviously.
Yeah, that's so funny. Everything goes around, comes around, right?
Yeah.
So, well, what is your definition of success?
I don't mean this in a cynical way, but it's actually just not quitting the business. I have a secondary definition that I'll get to in a second. But when I say I don't mean it in a cynical way, I just mean, you know, we know the pressure and the stress and the fluctuating income and the this and the that and the other. And I really do know that this is a long game. I mean, we all know it. And it is a matter of longevity and finding a way to motivate yourself to stay in it. And I think a lot of the people who leave, sometimes, you know, they're really talented people who just burn out. And so that's why I consider it a success to stay in. I think it's, if you do love it, you have to hang on to what you love about it and figure out a way to hang on to it when you're riding the sort of crazy, tumultuous ride that this business is. My second definition of success, I'm a slow writer. I have to really think about it. And comedy is hard at sometimes. And I have to think about that. And so I've told myself, you were going to put something out every year. And collaboration believe me, last year was a hard year for me. And collaboration was the only way that I put something out. It was the first time in a long time I did not put out my own individual book, but I'm on my way to rectifying that. So
that's great. That's great. And we're going to talk about your collaboration later. Awesome. I'm really interested to get into that.
That is a story in itself.
So what do you wish you'd known about writing and craft when you started?
That I am an extrovert and that I need to approach it a little bit differently. Although I would argue that what I'm about to say really applies to introverts too. I think, and this goes back to the challenge of being in this business and sort of riding the ups and the downs, writing them out. I need it to be adventurous. I need to think of it as an adventure. And what I mean by that is part of staying motivated. And to do that, I'm not necessarily talking about research trips, although those are nice. Everybody loves a good research trip, but not everybody has the ability to travel. So it's finding ways to make this adventurous. Some of that is the collaboration that I'll talk about. Some of that, though, is having fun in the books. For example, looking at maybe something my character would do and saying, could I do this? Like, is there, like I've really thought about taking, like she's a PI. So I've thought about like taking, classes or like, you know what I mean? Riding around with this, like I know an actual like PI, an older woman who is in a small town in Texas. I've thought about like riding around with her. But thinking a little bit outside the box, even, and this sounds so crazy, but I've even worked in, oh my gosh, if you guys have never heard of Fifi Mahoney's in New Orleans, it is a wig shop. And I mean, these are the craziest wigs you're ever going to see in your life. Think of like a big red wig with a board across the top of it, almost like a little hat, with a red and white checkered tablecloth, a Corona, a lemon, and some plastic crawdads. Like you're at a crawdad boil on your head. I mean, these are crazy. And so I saw them and there was something about them that just made me happy. Like, and I started incorporating them into my books and it has become a whole thing with my readers. And I've even worn some of the wigs, like I have bought them. So it's just, how can I make this fun and keep it fun when sometimes it's just not fun?
Yeah, that is true. I mean? Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes it is just not fun. And so it's the adventure, like finding a way to make it. And then also, and this sounds crazy because I was never somebody who journaled, didn't write, didn't journal, mocked people who did. I write like notes to myself sometimes, like telling myself how great it's going to be if I finish this book and oh, how liberating. And I make myself like imagine the liberation and the joy and the happiness and the things I will do with my time that I'm taking off from writing. So it's kind of a lot of little mind games and tricks, really.
Yeah. I think that's important though, because it's not always fun. And for some of us, we have to do that. We have to play some onions. Yeah. You have connections in New Orleans. I've been to New Orleans with you and you had a signing at, what was the name of the place?
Well, Poisons. It was a secret vampire speakeasy.
No, well, yes, you went, but you had the signing. Yeah, we went to a secret
and
vampire speakeasy, and I was sorely disappointed. There wasn't a vampire in sight.
We were there too early.
That was it? Okay.
Yeah, well, they come out at night, and remember, it was like freaking daylight. I mean,
so don't go in the summer.
No, yeah,
that was the problem. It was after.
Remember, it was before they actually opened, and I was like, "Why did you do this? This doesn't make any sense." But it was at Boutique de Vampire.
Yes, that's where the signing was. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go into that shop and you like sort of chat with the person at the register, they have this policy of like, if they kind of like you as a person, they will give you this little piece of paper that says like where the secret speakeasy is and tells you what you have to do. And basically you have to go into this certain bar and you have to find somebody who works there and you have to say this certain phrase.
Yes.
And it's a phrase, and it's really funny. I'm not gonna give it away. And then like they don't even say a word. They just lead you out back through this creepy old courtyard and like open this old door, and then you see this red and the staircase, and at the end of it it says Vampire Zone, and you go up. I mean, it's really an adventure.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of places in New Orleans like that, and they actually do have a vampire community. And I think it's like if you look at New Orleans Vampire Association.org, you'll see it. They have like a code of ethics, like for being a blood donor, and
wow,
it's crazy.
Okay, so
they're community minded. They feed the homeless.
Yeah. So this leads in perfectly into the next question about marketing, because like these things that you do like for fun that are interesting, they're perfect for talking to your readers. I mean, do you incorporate those, and what do you do for marketing? Like our general question is, what do you wish you knew about marketing? But how do you incorporate these things into like your newsletters and stuff?
I think, I hear this a lot, like from people who join my newsletter. I tell them about random adventures I had. And so like on that trip that Jamie was on me, Jamie can tell you that a woman like chased me around a bed at the Airbnb. I mean, we had this whole, you guys, it was the craziest, it was the worst, but also in some ways the best trip ever. And we were in a flood, weren't we? Didn't it flood? Like
we were. We had to take our shoes off, and they gave us umbrella wrappers to put on our feet because they said, "Do not go outside."
Yeah, you could get
bare
like
feet because the water was so high and it was just sewery, and so
staph infection. We were in the French Quarter, right? Like I remember like a liquor bottle floating past me as we were trying to leave. But I mean,
I slept in the hall.
Yeah. Y'all, my dog died. Like it was just,
that's right.
And then also Jamie and I went somewhere to watch like the royal wedding. Like
wow.
It was just this trip was just all over the place. But as for marketing, there's so many, like it's so easy to market with New Orleans, you guys.
Right.
It is kind of a party. It lends itself to fun. It also, of course, lends itself to mystery. It sort of is a place. But yes, the wigs, Mardi Gras beads. Like when I send a book, I always send a strand of Mardi Gras beads. I go to Mardi Gras. I catch a lot of the beads from like super coveted crews. I buy them. I mean, it's hard to kind of it's sort of hard to pick any one thing, but it is just about fostering a sense of like fun community because I write comedy. That wouldn't necessarily work for everybody. I think it depends a lot on what you write, clearly. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's so random. What do I wish I knew about marketing? Oh God, so many things.
It's an hour show.
Yeah. Right. I think I'll just say I wish I sort of knew that it's that I could have as much fun with it as I do trying to have fun writing the books, and that there is a way to market and enjoy it. And, I think I'll give Becca Syme a shout out. I think it really does go back to the idea of, don't try to do all the things because you'll drive yourself crazy. You'll probably waste a lot of money and waste a lot of time. And then you're not writing the book, which is the most important thing. So pick some things that you like and try to have fun with it. And like I said, it's easy with New Orleans and comedy.
Yeah. To me, it seems like it's very just kind of organic for you. You're like, oh, this is fun and this is fun. And I'll share this with my readers. And like, it's not like a super regimented system. Where like, oh, I'll do this. And this is more intuitive maybe. But I mean, I think it comes through in like when you talk about it and in your books, I think it's just you.
I think it has to be natural for me, because if I try to force anything, you can really, really tell. I am not somebody who can fake it until you make it kind of it. I can't fake anything. It's like all over my face and out of my mouth. It's like, everybody knows about it.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny. Well, what assumptions did you make at the beginning of your career, and looking back, did they turn out to be right or wrong?
I assumed that I would quit my day job and I would make money at this, be able to support myself, no problem. After a certain amount of time, I gave myself a certain number of years. And so the mistake that I actually made was quitting that job. And it wasn't wrong to quit that job. For me, it was wrong to quit a job. I actually don't want writing to be my full-time job. And I found that out by quitting a very lucrative tech job. I didn't belong at that company. So again, that was the right thing for me to do. I wasn't happy in what I was doing there anymore. And in fact, that is when I started writing my first book. And that was sort of a sign that I wanted something else. So I guess I would sum it up by saying, I think there is a way to support. I think I know that I could support myself with writing, but there's two issues. One, I am an extrovert. I do need to have that outside stimulation that maybe has nothing to do with my writing. The easiest way for me to get that is a day job. I do like the comfort of knowing I have an income coming in that is separate from my books, so that there's not so much pressure on me and on my books to perform. And then it was great to quit that job, though, and learn that about myself, because I learned it definitively. It wasn't I better go get a job right now and like make up for the income that I don't have. No, it was, I'm going to write the same amount, whether I have a day job or not. And I actually went to the Writers Police Academy many years ago, and I met a woman on a bus to a prison. They took us to a freaking and prisoners were like yelling at us through the bars and like looking at us like, oh God, it was like the craziest experience. And this woman said to me, she goes, oh gosh, I wrote way more when I had a day job than I do now. And I was like, oh, that's not going to be me. I don't know what you're talking about. You were wrong. No, you don't know me. I'm determined. I'm like type A, blah, blah, blah. Oh my God. She was right. I wrote more when I had a day job because I was excited about it. I was like, oh, yay, free time where I can write. Everybody get away from me. I'm into this. I'm excited. When it was my sole job, I was like, oh my God, like maybe I'll go clean my bathroom. I need more coffee. I don't feel good.
Yeah. If I'm folding clothes, I'm avoiding writing.
Yes.
I hate folding clothes.
Scrubbing a toilet. I must really not want to be writing that book. There was something about it that took the joy out of it, being able to do it all of the time. I should have just written so many books, and I did not. I did not.
Well, what did you do? Did you go back to work full time? Did you go back to work part time?
I did. You know what? I wake up psycho early in the morning, and I learned when I was writing my dissertation. When I was writing my dissertation, my son was small, and so I did it out of necessity. I knew that when he woke up every day, boy, nothing else happened.
Yeah.
So I started getting up like 3, 4 in the morning, and I discovered just quite by accident that it actually is a great time for me to write because there is silence. There's nothing to tempt me. I'm not going to go run an errand. I'm not going to call somebody. You know what I mean? It's like this sort of quiet, almost dead time in the world where I don't know, it gets rid of the distractions for me, I think, and the temptations, I should say. And so I get up early and I write, and I do have another job at a tech company that I freaking love. I'm having so much fun with that, you guys, because it's crazy. It's just a crazy job. And so I think the thing about that is I have the freedom to start kind of late. And, if you get up at like 3 or 4 in the morning and you're writing, let's say by 4:30 or whatever, and then you don't start until 9 and you're at home, that's a lot of time to write, really.
Yeah.
But I'm always excited about it because the job, interrupts that. And so it's like, yay, I wake up, I get to write. And it's a crazy thing, but that's how I have to do it.
That's good. That's good.
Well, I'm so glad you said that because there's so many people that it's almost like leaving the day job is like the holy grail or something. And it's not the right thing for a lot of people. And so I think it's important to talk about it when it doesn't work out well.
What was hilarious, so I went to RAM this year for the first time, and they have these like 20-minute breakout sessions, and there was one. I mean, there were hundreds of people at RAM, right? And there was this one for basically writers who had a day job and wanted to keep it, and that literally was the premise. And there were 3 of us at it.
See, it's important. We talk about this.
We were laughing so hard. But yeah, it for me, I quit that job for 2 years and 4 months. And I know that, by the end of it, I didn't know what day it was. A lot of the time I felt dirty. I was like, did I shower? And even if I showered, sometimes I still felt dirty. I don't I just there was something about it that was so not 2 years, 2 years at 2.5 of that. I was like, no, Traci needs to see some other people.
So it's just not a good fit. So that's totally fine.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Well, so we talked about that. We always like to talk about mistakes and lessons learned. And so obviously that was something that it was a mistake that you learned from, but sounded like it was a good thing to discover about yourself. Is there anything else, any other mistakes or lessons learned that stand out?
Yeah, and one of them actually has to do with collaboration. So, Jamie heard me whine about this. In fact, I credit her with being the person who helped me get over like a really painful stumbling block I had toward this one book. So I did a collaboration where it was like a multi-author series, and I was just one author who had like a business in a town, right? So, and I had to write about it was the hair salon thing. And it was a lot of fun to write the books, but it wasn't the kind of collaboration that I was thinking. So we had to write with each other's characters, blah, blah, blah. And I just, by the end of it, I was like, I think I want to go back to Frankie, but I would like to wrap this up because I had an overarching mystery. Jamie heard me whine about that book, like finishing it. And she looked at me one day and she was like, you've just got to write it. Like you've just got like a block for this book. And if you're not going to get past it until you do it. So thank you for that. The reason
I can't believe I even said that because,
no, it was good. It was so obvious. And I was like whining. And so it needed to be said. But what's funny is that I'm in a collaboration now that has changed everything. So I was in Kindle Unlimited, and because I am not that person who, writes quickly, Kindle
Cranks
Unlimited,
them out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not really the place. I do think it works for some people who are slow writers, but by and large, that is a voracious group of readers. And they want you to write and write and write in that series. And that's just not me. So I decided to go back wide. And as part of that, I was still using covers that Gemma Halliday, she had picked the initial design. So I was like, okay, it's time to change these covers too. And the real indicator that I should change the cover is that, this is going to make a lot of people mad. And a lot of people are also going to nod their heads in vigorous agreement. I was listening to a woman who did a Sisters in Crime course. It was online, and my covers had so there was like a girl on them and crime scene tape. And so this woman doing the presentation, she leaned in and she goes, and cozy mystery authors, don't make the mistake of putting crime scene tape on your cover. It's amateurish. And I just felt myself just red, like a burning embarrassment. And I was like, I knew I should change those covers. I think that was very cute at one point in time. I was over it. And apparently this woman is really never been a fan. So I was like, this is the time to change my covers. And so I used the same cover designer. And I said, I really liked the colors and the font and the way it was set up. We just need to take off the girl, and we need to take off the crime scene tape. And so my titles all have booze in them, go figure. And so I there's a liqueur wine, and so she does
booze, BOOZE, not booze, BOOS. I was like,
no, booze as in alcohol.
Okay, I'm not surprised.
So no, you've been with me in New Orleans. I write about New Orleans. Secret vampire speakeasy. Anyway, I love what she did with the covers. And what was really interesting was they suddenly my books really started doing well on Barnes and Noble and
that's awesome.
Apple, and they never had before. So I think there was something about that look that just did not appeal to those readers. I have no other way to explain it. Again, it's the same font. It's the same. Actually, half of the covers are exactly the same. It is just changing the image on them. And so that one little detail, which is kind of a big part of the cover, I guess, but not all of it, was really a game changer. But honestly, it's part of the collaboration too. So in the middle of all of that, Arlene McFarlane, who writes the Murder Curlers series, it's a hair salon in Boston as a premise. She had the idea of approaching me, Leslie Langtree, and Diana Orgain, and having our 4 sleuths not know each other, but end up at the same bachelorette party in New York. And I thought it was really so clever to have our 4 sleuths come together. There's a murder, of course, because it's a mystery. And then they solve it, and they have to get along, and they're not any of them alike, actually, just accidentally. Maybe that was intentional on Arlene's part, but that has been a real game changer because it's done so many things. I'll see if I can summarize it all. One, obviously it has exposed me to their readers. So I write, it's basically the way we do it is these are 20 chapter books. We each write 5 chapters. In 2 of them, we actually decided to create a character. So only 4 of our chapters are our character. And then we each write 1 chapter in the voice of the same character. So that is also a fun challenge, actually. But anyway, the point is, I have been exposed to their readership. I hear from those readers all the time. Like, I don't know why, but they email and they say, oh, I had been reading Leslie for years. And, I heard of you when you were with Gemma, but never got around to reading your books. I'm so glad you did this. Now I have a new author. And it's funny, we're all getting these emails. And I have no idea what it is about this particular collaboration that has inspired readers to contact us, but it really has. And they tell us stories like, oh, I read yours and Diana's, and here's what but I hadn't read Leslie. So thank you so much for doing this, because now I have Leslie. Do you know what I mean? And so it's not, it's sort of two-sided. And that, of course, has also just the collaboration has been so good for me. I think whether you're an extrovert or an introvert, there's something about just sort of the working with other authors can be really inspiring and sort of challenge you to up your game. So like at a time when I was like tired of Frankie and didn't write the book last year that I was supposed to write, I started it, but I just didn't finish it. I was like, scrubbing toilets or whatever, working my job. But it got me excited about it again, because I started seeing my character through their eyes, and they would make these little comments like, oh, that was so funny, or I love how Frankie does this. And I was like, does she do that? Like, I didn't even know, but yeah, you know what? I like that too. Remembering why I like the character, remembering why I like the series. Also, when you have to write in a group, it really forces you to get your act together. So we actually put out 2 books in that series last year, which was one of the reasons I didn't finish my own. And then I wrote something else, a short story for a collaboration. But it has been a real game changer, and I can't recommend it enough. And also working with them has led to other things. Like, for example, we did a live thing with Barnes and Noble Nook on their Facebook page that, like, I mean, the first like 2 days it had 5,000 views. And there was like people that are watching the 4 of us talk about this series. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that. It's done a lot. It really has.
So those are obviously wide, right? The collaboration books are wide. Yeah. So did you take your individual books wide at the same time, or was that after?
I had just done it when I was approached about the collaboration. So I had already made that decision to do it. And that's when I was changing the covers. And then I got invited to do the collaboration. And I was like, okay, perfect timing. This will help me also sort of jumpstart these books wide, because they're all wide. And so their wide readers were getting exposed.
That's so great.
Yeah. The timing was just really lucky. It was just a lucky break, honestly.
Yeah. So if someone listening is interested in doing that, describe the process a little bit more. Like you are writing, all 4 of y'all are writing one book. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So how do you do that?
Plot it? Do you outline it?
Kinda. So what we do, it has been really fun. I hear of authors describing collaborating as a chore. This has not been that experience, and I think I know why. So it's called the series, I think we call it the Killer Foursome series, but the titles of the books start with the number 4 and the word sleuth. So 4 sleuths and a bachelorette was the first one. And what we did was we met on Zoom, because none of us live anywhere even remotely close to each other. In fact, Arlene is in Canada. And we meet on Zoom, and we had the title, and Arlene, all she had was, our sleuths are going to meet and for a bachelorette party, and the bachelorette is going to go missing. And then the way we did it was we figured out the first 4 chapters. So since it was Arlene's idea, Arlene wrote chapter 1 in her sleuth POV. Then immediately she ends with some like sort of hooky cliffhanger kind of ending to her chapter, right? And then immediately author number 2, which I think was Diana, maybe, she picked up, takes it from there. So we've all been in the room. We've all seen the same thing. So her character starts talking about what's happening from her point of view. And then I did it a little bit differently for the first book. I had Frankie arrive after they were all there. So she's arriving, she's pulling up to the hotel, and she sees something when she's arriving that turns out to be critical, like to the plot. But most of the time, we're all in the same place doing the same thing. And then we decided when we met, we figured out what was going to happen in the first 4 chapters. And so we had this agreement, but it was loose, right? And then, and we had a Google Doc. And so Arlene posted her chapter. Diana, we all read it, commented on it. Then Diana ran with it. Then we would go to the Google Doc, read what Diana did, comment, run with it. And then at a certain point, we decided that the way that we had done this, we needed to all write from the POV of the Bachelorette, whose name was Babette. And that was a whole lot of fun as well. Like talking about that, what was going to happen to her. And what happened at the end of it, so because we picked a neutral location to have this Bachelorette party, so everybody had to fly. It was actually in Niagara Falls, not New York City, but New York. And so we were talking at the end of it, and I said, if we really want to feature our sleuths, we should each write one more in the hometown of our sleuth and have a reason that we contact the other 3 and say, you guys need to come. And so, like, I think for the second one was New Orleans, so it was Frankie's turf. We've done that one. That one's out. It's 4 sleuths and a burlesque dancer, and the idea was there's a lot of burlesque in New Orleans, you guys, go figure. And so what we did for that was we said, oh, well, because the Bachelorette party was kind of a disaster, someone was murdered, and the Bachelorette was missing, and, blah, blah, blah. And we all had so much fun together. Let's get together in New Orleans and just have a good time. And then, something goes terribly, terribly wrong. So it is so fun because we all write comedy. And so listening to us on the Zoom calls is probably actually funnier than the books themselves because we just let it go. You know what I mean? And we're brainstorming, saying extremely inappropriate things, laughing, talking about everything but the book sometimes. Like, it's just that you never know. Like, you never know.
Such a great concept and idea. I love it so much.
I think everybody should do it. I really do, because again, it will really, if you were like, especially if you were writing, well, obviously you'd be writing a series because your heroine would get together, or maybe not. Maybe you wrote a one-off book and you were like, oh, I really loved her. Like, I'd love to do something else with her or him. And what's great about it is it does really renew your love and enthusiasm. And so that's kind of what I meant about making writing an adventure. I feel like the collaboration is an adventure, and we actually all went to NINC in September so that we could meet. Person.
Love that.
Some of us had met each other, but others hadn't. So we hung out, and we actually got into little escapades and scrapes and things at NINC, like just because, I don't know, there was something about that series that sort of inspired us to be a little crazy when we met. And it was so freaking fun. And NINC is awesome for that. I mean, you're at the beach.
Yeah. It's a good place.
Yeah. Well, that is so interesting. And I just think it's great to hear of, like, there's all these things about marketing, and you can do ads and you can do this new thing this way, but this is actually a new thing to do with writing the book, writing a book and a series. And so, but it's great.
You have 3 other authors putting it in their newsletter and on their Facebook page, right? Like,
so you all promote together.
Yes. So the marketing, so the marketing is like, times 3, like what it would normally be, or more so, depending on, maybe like the size of their newsletter. But yeah, so it's such it's really, really fun. And again, whether you're an extrovert or introvert, because I keep bringing up the extrovert thing, I think it's actually irrelevant. I think it really is just a fun thing to do. You're just meeting on Zoom. It kind of breaks up the writing day.
Yeah.
If you're home writing all day, it's like a meeting to look forward to, because they're very, very funny. We decided we were going to have fun with these books, or why do it if not? And
right.
So
how many books are out now in that series?
We are just starting number 3, which Leslie Langtree writes about. If you don't know this, she writes about an ex-CIA agent who is now a Girl Scout troop leader. And it's actually inspired on her. She was a Girl Scout troop leader, and she had a really, really, really precocious set of girls who were super smart. She was like smarter than me. And always getting into stuff, and so we're going glamping in book 3, and those Girl Scouts are involved.
That'll be so fun.
So this is the whole concept is so different from what we normally hear, like right in the same series, release quickly. And it sounds like y'all are just having a great time, but like writing and promoting and marketing and taking your time with it and having a great time.
Yeah. And then, and going to NINC to kind of cap it off, right? Like, and that also was really good too, because we started plotting book 3 at NINC. So we actually did a little bit of work.
A little work gets done at NINC sometimes.
The fruity cocktails when we were doing that, and sometimes when we were. But it's really, again, it is a really great way, I think, to jumpstart your writing, to get you sort of maybe back into a character that you've fallen out of love with, or keep going in a new way with a character that you still love, but also just have some fun, like let loose a little bit, not worry about it, because wow, for once, like the power of your marketing is just multiplied without you really doing anything extra at all.
Yeah.
So there's so many benefits. Like, I'm really surprised other people aren't doing it. And you guys, the best part is you write 5 freaking chapters and you have a book. Like, yay.
Yes. Wow. That's amazing.
Sounds terrific.
Yeah, exactly. So are you running ads to that book or just relying on your newsletters?
We relied on the newsletters initially, and we're going to start doing ads to it. But again, it wasn't that the ads aren't so much out of necessity as it is like, oh, we should do this. But we've just really been having fun with it and not stressing, which has also been such a great part of this. Write a book and not really care so much, like like, oh my gosh, am I doing all the things? Have I set up all the pieces? Is everything ready to go?
Right.
Because we have, like I said, the power of the
I mean, well, that is true. Like, if you miss something, or if you're if it's not, I don't know, I don't mean like they come in and like correct you, but like if you miss something, or you're in a mystery, you don't have all those elements. You've got 2 or 3 other people to say, hey, wait, we got to fix this. And, that's just so great. I love that.
Which is why it has been really, really easy to plot, right? Because immediately 1 or 2 or more of us will say, no, wait, if we do that, we have to do this. And so it really is, like I said, it's very, very loose, but it has worked out remarkably well. Because we're all then going and reading each other's chapters and kind of like, wait, you said this here, that doesn't work. And so it's just been remarkably easy. There's not a lot of advanced work. The most we have done, I think, is probably Leslie, because she already has a campground that she has sort of mapped out on paper, like as part of her world. And so she's sharing that. For Burlesque Dancer, they didn't know a lot about the New Orleans burlesque scene. So in a separate Google Doc, I threw up some pictures and some information. Like, there's a school, there's like, certain dancers that are famous there, like Trixie Minx, and, just et cetera, making sure they knew all of this stuff.
That's great.
But that's the most work we've done. It's really all just those quick Zoom and those Zoom calls. I think we maybe do 4 for a book.
Wow.
5, maybe 5.
Wow, that's just so great. I mean, I'm loving this idea. I think it's awesome. And I love to see that you're excited about writing and things like that,
Because I wasn't. Yeah.
Right. You weren't.
Year, I think a lot of people, I don't know. If you made it through the pandemic, people sort of crashed and burned last year. That was, that was the general.
Yeah, I think I agree.
In my part of the world, that's kind of what was going on with a lot of people I knew, and it really did affect me. So having the group to inspire me to do my little 5 chapters was very easy, very fun, and it's kind of all I wanted to do was just have that fun for once and not care so much and not be so wrapped up in, oh my God, like I'm writing this,
Well, it's not all riding on you, and then like the writing and the promotion, all that you're divvying it up. So it's not all you. I can see how that could be a really good relief.
And it was actually just fun. So it wasn't that painful process that, oh, what am I going to do for my lunch? Like, oh my God,
Yeah.
who am I going to,
I understand that. I don't know if Jamie does. Jamie loves lunch.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome. I think that our listeners are going to love this episode. And so the final question we like to ask is, what's the best thing you think you've done to set yourself up for success?
I think honestly, know my personality, be honest about what I like to do and what I'm just not going to do. I'm not lying to myself anymore.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'll do that. I can do that. No, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm set in my ways. It's obvious, but just being brutally honest and then working with that and finding the things that are fun or that will make it fun that feel true to me. Ram, I think Pippa Grant made this last one, had a really, really great comment just about writing in general, which was fine. And it sounds cliche, but it's actually not if you think about it. And she was like, find that thing that is uniquely you and make sure you are bringing it to your genre and to your book. And for her, that was a real, game changer. And I sat there and I was like, yeah, thing that's uniquely me. But you know what? We are all unique. I mean, it's just a fact of life. And I do like sort of fun and comedy. And so why was I not trying harder to really bring that to my freaking comedy books? What's wrong with me?
I guarantee you that even though there's cozy mystery readers or authors, not many of them are wearing wigs and talking about those fun things from New Orleans and vampires and stuff.
Right.
Guys, I have to say this. This has to be said before we go. I have ordered one for Halloween that is this big gray-green swampy looking thing, and it has an entire haunted house and cemetery on the top with a moon and a raven flying in front of it. This entire thing is on the way. So have fun with it. Seriously, whatever that is, work it into the books. My readers have my character has a nightmare about one of the wigs, like becoming alive and like swallowing her up or whatever. Have fun with it.
I love it. I love it.
Great.
And that's a reason enough to get on Traci's newsletter right there. Just to see that picture.
No pressure.
So tell everyone where they can find you and your books and your newsletter.
Oh, you guys, no one can spell my name. So Traci Andrighetti, like Mario Andretti, like spaghetti, .com. And then I think so you can sign up for a newsletter there. And then my Facebook is Traci Andrighetti author, maybe. I'm terrible at this, you guys, obviously.
Okay. Well, we will have those links in the show.
We'll have those
Don't
links.
worry about it.
Yeah. And it's Traci
I need to collaborate with other writers.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll have all those links at wishidknownthenforwriters.com. And thanks to Adriel Wiggins for doing the admin for the podcast. And thanks to Alexa Larberg for editing and producing the podcast. And if you want to support the podcast, you can find links at wishidknownforwriters.com/support. See y'all next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Jamie and I are so glad you've joined us year in and year out to talk about writing and publishing. If you've gotten value from the podcast and you'd like to return the favor, you can show your support by becoming a subscriber. We'll give you a shout out on a future episode. Go to wishidknownforwriters.com/support to learn more.